Mr. Regal, we had just talked about how, you had an opportunity maybe to go, but it didn't happen. And like
Right.
we said,
So
things happen for a reason.
yes, they
And
do. So
and
let's get to
now you're in
the important
WCW,
bit. So
right? You're in WCW.
right. So I'm
Is
in
that
WCW. I've had the great fortune to come, and I've had an incredible year. And then I get the message that I am being asked to wrestle the legendary Mr. Antonio Inoki, head of New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time. And it was on his final countdown. Some people have said it's the seventh on his final countdown. It is actually an added match on his final countdown, because he was slowly retiring. Now it's where the stories start. So why pick me? Well, Mr. Inoki picked me specifically because if you know anything about the history and his history, and you know the legend, and you see the way that his final matches happened, back to that, a big thing in Japanese mythology of pro wrestling is the Lancashire style, catch as catch can. Now, I don't claim to be anything any more than me knowing enough stuff. I'm no expert at anything. I can just that my style is based. The European style is that. So I'm never. I know enough that I know because I've been around the right people to teach me. But I don't claim to be any kind of expert on that. But I was the only one doing that style on a nationwide basis or a worldwide basis, because of WCW, really, and not the only one. I know that sounds silly, but as far as WCW, I was
sure? And that is a powerful organization that has TV all around the world.
right.
So what you're saying is that style of wrestling being broadcast all around the world was almost exclusive to what you were doing at the time.
Well, yes, I was the one doing that. I purposely kept my style as much as possible. If Billy Robinson would have been able to wrestle Mr. Inoki, I'm sure Mr. Inoki would have wrestled Billy Robinson and beat him. It was a specific set of matches to different people from different styles of wrestling. And so that's why I know this, because I've been told this directly. Other people might have other stories or have made stories up. I know this as a fact. And it was also that he wanted to beat in a non-title match, a WCW champion. Well, I was both. I covered two parts of that. I was the world television champion, and I was the person doing the Lancashire style, which is somewhat mythical as far as me. It's just the style that I do, and it is based on that. So I get told that I've got to do this match with Mr. Inoki, and I'm blown away because, first of all, I'm 26. right? Antonio Inoki, whatever, it's this day and age, and people don't. They're everything's there for you to know, and that is a huge mystique um, uh, around Mr. Inoki and the myth and the legend and all that goes with it. But he's also a man who's fought Muhammad Ali. And as a child growing up in England, Muhammad Ali was one of my heroes. Muhammad Ali spent a lot of time in England growing up, when I was growing up, because although he was vilified in this country, in America, which is that's not for me to get into. In England, he was loved. He could come and fought in America because he made more money, but he was on chat shows all the time. He was beloved. I had a Muhammad Ali action figure that you could pull things and it boxed and it had its own ring, and he did it like a friend of my dad's had a car, a big like expensive car sales showroom, and Muhammad Ali opened it. He did a lot of work in the 70s in England. It was a huge star, and to me it was like Evil Knievel.
Right.
There were certain things that crossed over to Britain or were just Evil Knievel was whatever whatever he was to you, he was just as much to me and Muhammad Ali as a child. So that I had Evil Knievel, the wind up. Anybody remembers those wind up things?
The thing with the string, and I had one myself. Yeah,
right. So Muhammad Ali. So I'm like, wow. And then I get told that, right, I knew that there was a deal going on, and Eric Bischoff. I actually asked him the other day because I called him and asked him to make sure that my side of this is right. But they had a working agreement. Well, from what I know from the Japanese side is that was part of the deal that he wanted to do. It was because sending people over to give them an excursion so they could come to do, but talent trade as well. But he picked me. He picked me, and so I went to Japan for the first time a couple of weeks before. I did an angle with him where I wrestled Johnny B. Bad. I'm going to tell this story. We used to do, which was, again, these things, even to this day, it's weird, but because that's the way I was brought up in wrestling. We used to do promos. So many, Mr. Shivani was part of it as well. So many market-specific promos, or promos weeks ahead. When I first came to this country and they started doing those Disney tapings where there was 13 weeks ahead. It was like sticking a knife through everything that I'd been taught about protecting the strength of this job. Right? We've talked about it, and still some, when you've had that hammered into you from being a teenager and by the people,
right?
It's just so there's certain things I'm just not comfortable talking about, but this is what happened. We're doing promos, and Mark Marrow came into me and said, "Can I have the television championship, please?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I'm beating you for it at the next whatever that was when I did the angle with Mr. Inoki." Now, Ric Flair was in charge of the creative at the time, as people call it, the booking
Right.
at the time. He didn't know about this deal with Mr. Inoki, right?
Hmm.
So I had to say to Mark Merrow politely, sorry, you better get somebody to go and talk to Eric, because I knew about this deal, but again, I'm
Mum's the word.
mum's a word.
Right.
No, nobody else seemed to. So I had to say no, and wasn't too happy with that. But he went away, and eventually they came back. And I forget exactly whether Rick was there or not. But Eric had told it that, because where we did promos, which was down at the bottom of the CNN Centre, you had to cross over the courtyard inside the CNN Centre and go on the South Tower, and WCW was on, I believe, the 12th floor. And so somebody went across, whoever it was, and talked to Eric, and Eric said, no, Regal can't lose at this. Can't really tell you why, or maybe they did tell him why, but he can't lose. He's got to do this thing with an oath. So, uh, Mark might not even remember all this, but I do, because again, once I knew this was an important thing for me going on. So there was a bit of a, whether he remembers this or not, there was a bit of a friction thing with he just seemed very often. He used to live above me in an apartment, and I was always helpful to him and helped him out, always got on well with him, and always, I wrestled him, and I always tried to do different stuff with him to make him look like a better wrestler, and more than what he was capable of. Because he did, and to do different stuff, because again, I'm trying to keep my style different than everybody else, otherwise I just blend in with everybody else. Because people have brought that up over the years of why you should have changed. No, if I'd have done that, I'd have just been another wrestler. That's why I stayed around for 30 years, because even when I didn't do that style, I had the thing of I could change into doing anything at any time, and I could do lots of things, but I kept a little, whatever it was, that European stuff that I'd been passed on and taught how to do properly. And so I have this match with Mark Marrow, and on the front row is Mr. Inoki, and he was in the Japanese Senate at the time, the Diet, as it is called. And it's all the security. I mean, this is like the FBI, or what, Japanese version of the FBI. So I've said to Mark Marrow, look, I know you, and if Mark is, he said, please don't, because he was a very nice fella. But, sometimes when you don't know what's going on, or if
Sure.
I just know that I knew what was going on. He might not have even known that. He might have heard the name Antonio, but he wouldn't have known what I know about Antonio Inoki.
Right.
And he wouldn't have known the history of New Japan, and he wouldn't have known, it just didn't. Right. But I did. And I had this, understanding of the culture and the respect and the whatever else. I said, I've got to do this angle with Mr. Inoki at the end of this. But I could see that he had the ump a little bit. He wasn't happy. And I said to him, I know I've got to do this match, and then at the end of it, he's going to come in the ring and it's going to be what it is. Do not fire that glitter gun off into the ring. Well, the first thing he does is get on the corner and fires a glitter gun. And so there's all these big silver things all over the ring. Right. So if you actually go back and watch that match, first bump I take, I stand up and I'm covered in all these stupid things. I look like somebody from Studio 54 in 1975 or something, with all these like things all over.
Yeah.
Right.
All the confetti.
Right. But it's big. I would take them and give them to Eric Bischoff. That's how much they trusted me.
Wow.
which is, again, if you don't know that culture, I'll leave it at that.
Big deal.
It is a big deal to be
Right.
trusted with that. And they used to trust me to give from my early time there ever. This is why I called Eric the other day, because and I asked him, because he had so much going on. But this is 94, 95. This is pre-Nitro. This is all that other stuff and all that, whatever he's got thinking about. This New Japan thing was a deal at the time, and it was, there was people going backwards and forwards. This was before the NWO and before this is all these things that I was basically on every other tour. And sometimes, there was a time when I went in, I was the first British person to have an IWGP heavyweight championship match against Hashimoto.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing, because in those, that group of fellas in those days were, how can I put this? The popularity then was, and the mythical whatever. There was Chono and Muta and Hashimoto, and this is a
It's a rarefied air. This is
right.
Yeah.
Well, to the point of in '97, I was put on, and which was an unusual thing at the time, and was put on the New Japan team. There's a picture of me and Sasaki, Sasaki, Muta, and not Chano, because Chano was on the other team. I feel terrible. I can't remember. He's not so good. But anyway, there's a photo out there, and you'll see I was part of that. And some people might go, "Oh, that's something," but I know different, because I know the culture there, and I know the way they are, and I know different things and things that a lot of people, and things that I would never share, and that's why they trust me. That or they did. I don't know the no people. I still have all my friends there that work there that I've known for, or have whatever, and I can get whatever because of deep-rooted, very, very deep-rooted, close relationships with people. And so that's that. So there's another thing.